Most money problems don't begin with panic. They begin with calm, with the feeling that things are under control. Bills are paid. Salary is coming. Nothing urgent is breaking. You're not worried. You're not stressed. In fact, that calm is the problem. Because the moment everything feels safe, something invisible gets built in your head. A line, a boundary, a point you believe life won't cross. And once that line exists, every decision quietly changes. Not because you planned it, but because your brain did. Let's take a very normal situation. Nothing dramatic. You earn, say, 55,000 rupees a month. City job, rent, one EMI, groceries, UPI everywhere. You're not rich, but you're not struggling either. Salary hits the account on the first. Phone buzzes. You check the balance. That number does something subtle. It doesn't excite you. It reassures you. It says, you're okay. You're safe. So you relax. You don't aggressively build savings. You don't overthink emergencies. You assume adjustments can always be made. Because you've managed so far. You've never gone completely broke. So why would you now? This belief doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from repetition. Every month, the same pattern. Salary comes. Expenses go. Life continues. Nothing collapses. So the assumption hardens. Worst case, I'll reduce expenses. Worst case, I'll take help. Worst case, I'll figure it out. You don't say these things consciously, but they sit underneath every decision, like a safety net you've never checked, but fully trust. Then something small happens. Not a disaster, just a disruption. Salary is delayed by 10 days. A medical test you didn't plan for. A family expense you can't avoid. Nothing extreme. But suddenly, rent feels heavier. EMI feels tighter. 1,500 rupee expenses feel threatening. And the confusion hits. Because just a few days ago, everything felt stable. You weren't living recklessly. So why does it feel like the ground moved? This is the false floor effect. You could also call it the floor that only exists in your head. Here's what it actually is. Your mind creates an imaginary minimum level of safety. A floor, not based on facts, but based on past survival. You've never fallen below a certain point. So your brain assumes you never will. That assumption becomes invisible. You don't think about it, but you live as if it's guaranteed. I'll always have some income. Family will step in if needed. Things won't get that bad. The floor feels solid, but it isn't. It's not a floor. It's just memory pretending to be certainty. Here's how this quietly shapes behavior. First, because you believe the floor exists, you don't prepare for falling below it. Not consciously. You just don't feel urgency. Second, small risks feel harmless. Low savings feel acceptable. Thin buffers feel manageable. Because the imagined floor is doing the emotional work. Third, nothing goes wrong immediately. So the belief strengthens. Every normal month becomes proof. See, I was right. Fourth, life adds pressure. Not all at once, but layered. One expense overlaps another. One delay meets another delay. And then, the imaginary floor breaks. Not gradually. Suddenly. That's why the fall feels sharp. You didn't descend. You dropped. Here's something most people misunderstand. People don't make financial decisions based on numbers. They make them based on perceived safety. Safety is emotional, not mathematical. To people earning the same 50,000 rupees, can behave completely differently. One feels cautious. One feels relaxed. Not because of income, but because of where their imagined floor sits. And modern life strengthens this illusion. EMI stretch comfort. UPI removes friction. Credit delays pain. Salary cycles create rhythm. Everything keeps whispering. You're above the line. You're okay. You're not falling. Until suddenly, you are. For some people, the floor isn't income. It's family. If something happens, they'll help. We've always supported each other. I won't be left alone. So risks feel safer. Savings feel less urgent. The floor feels emotional, not financial. Until one day, the family is dealing with their own problem. Health, debt, pressure, and the floor disappears. Not because anyone failed, but because it was never guaranteed. For others, the floor is identity. I'm skilled. I'm experienced. I'll always find work. So job gaps feel impossible. Income breaks feel theoretical. Until the market shifts. The company restructures. The call doesn't come. And the shock isn't just financial. It's existential. Because the floor wasn't just money. It was self-image. Here's the psychological twist. The mind doesn't fear falling. It fears unexpected falling. If you knew exactly where the real bottom was, your behavior would adjust naturally. But when the bottom is imaginary, the shock is violent. That's why people say, I never saw this coming. I thought I had control. I didn't expect it to reach here. They're not lying. Their map was wrong. They weren't reckless. They were standing on a floor. They never checked. When the fall happens, people don't blame the floor. They blame themselves. I should have been smarter. I made bad decisions. I wasn't careful enough. But the problem wasn't intelligence. It was assumption. They were navigating reality, using a fictional boundary. And when it collapsed, they thought they failed, instead of noticing the illusion. This isn't rare. This is modern life. Stable salaries, predictable systems, soft landings, until they aren't. The more stable life feels, the more imaginary floors we build, and the more violent the shock feels. When one breaks, not because life became cruel, but because the belief was silent. So here's the thought to sit with. What part of your financial life feels safe? Not because it truly is, but because it always has been. What are you standing on that you've never actually tested? Not to fix it, not to change anything today, just to notice it. Because the most dangerous floors are the ones you never see.